Paris Saint-Germain, we have talked about this club countless times on this channel, including, the magnum opus of this channel. And if you haven't watched that video, definitely do so. Yet again, recently, PSG have been in the news, and for all the wrong reasons, and today we're going to talk about that. But before we do, I just want to give you guys a little brief summary of what has happened before all of this, basically starting from summer 2022 up until now. Last season, Paris Saint-Germain, after years of mismanagement and incompetence, finally decided now was the time to change things. PSG's first step in their so-called rebuild was to lock down Kylian Mbappe in order to save the club's reputation from being set back significantly, which they did successfully after convincing him with a highly lucrative deal and new project Mbappe was promised he would have a good amount of control over. We don't really know to what extent the amount of power Mbappe has, but he did have influence in bringing in new sporting director Luis Campos. PSG's so-called new project had a lot to do with change in transfer policy and an emphasis on younger talent. For the longest time, the Parisians had opted to ignore their homegrown talent in favor of the flashier signings. And to put into perspective of just how bad that has actually turned out, one of their own literally scored against them in the Champions League final. So having kicked former sporting director Leonardo to the curb after masterclasses like Leandro Paredes for 40 million and family man Icardi for 50 million, the addition of Luis Campos, who helped to bring success to both Lille and Monaco, was a step in the right direction. Right off the bat, PSG made more sensible transfers in young talents like midfielder Vitinha and defender Nordi Mukiele. The signings somewhat reminded me of when they first were taken over by QSI back in 2012, a time when they weren't really able to attract the higher profile players, but still did really well with their youngsters. Mbappe also had influence in bringing in new manager Christophe Galtier from Nice. Galtier had led Lille to an unlikely Ligue 1 title back in 2020-21. In the next season, he then helped Nice reach 5th in the league and a runners-up finish in the Coupe de France. Once he was brought in, Gaultier took an unorganized group of individuals in Paris and turned them into a properly structured team. The big three of Messi, Neymar, and Mbappe, who had disappointed so much last season to the point of being booed by their own fans, we're finally showing that unified and beautifully dangerous attacking art we had been promised last year. Throughout the rest of 2022, PSG went unbeaten in all competitions, winning 19 and drawing just 4. However, they did only finish runners-up in their Champions League group. Classic PSG. But considering where we were last season, it was still an upgrade. But unfortunately for PSG, the World Cup arrived. And I believe PSG had pretty much more than half of their squad going to the World Cup. Not only that, a lot of these players weren't just going to small nations that were just happy to be there. No, you had Neymar and Marquinhos going all the way to the quarterfinals, Messi and Mbappe went to the final, and because of that, after the tournament, there was a huge hangover for a lot of these players, especially the Brazilians and especially the French. Neymar, who was looking like the best version of himself before the World Cup, returned to his inconsistency of the past. Things got far worse though when Kylian Mbappe got injured in early February, because during his absence, PSG lost 3 straight times, one of which included a home defeat to Bayern Munich in the Champions League. He's back now, but unfortunately, the football gods said, a soul for a soul. So far in 2023, Paris Saint-Germain has won 7, but they've also lost 5. Don't worry though, it's not like second place Marseille will do anything.
Et on se fait éliminer par Annecy! Bande de nuls! C'est tout le temps pareil!
However, that's not the worst thing to happen at this club this year. In fact, it only just recently got much darker. Now, before I say anything, this is all alleged. During the last few days of February, a 24-year-old woman went to the police and said PSG star right-back Achraf Hakimi had raped her. The woman herself didn't want to press charges, but because of the gravity of her testimony, the prosecution office decided to open an investigation regardless around March 1st. Hakimi himself didn't publicly respond to the accusation. However, PSG made a statement saying that he firmly denies it. 2 days later, on March 3rd, according to sources from French international news agency AFP who spoke with prosecutors, Achraf Hakimi has now been formally charged for rape after a preliminary investigation. Under French law, this basically means there is reason to suspect a crime has been committed, but it allows magistrates more time to investigate before deciding whether to send the case to trial. For the time being, Hakimi has been placed under police monitoring and was banned from contact with the alleged victim. Then there's the allegations surrounding PSG's president, Nasser al-Khelaifi. According to L'Equipe, he was accused of kidnapping and torturing Franco-Algerian lobbyist Tayyab Ben Abderrahman. It was first reported in September 2022 that Ben Abderrahman was detained in Qatar back in January 2020. This was allegedly due to being in possession of likely compromising documents pertaining to certain high-level people in Qatar, including Nasser al-Khelaifi. Ben Abderrahman claimed he was subjected to kidnapping and torture before being put on house arrest, and it wasn't until November 2020 that he was allowed to leave after signing a confidentiality agreement. Basically, an agreement that prevented him from ever speaking about the situation ever again. After a preliminary investigation in mid-January, the prosecution has now confirmed that 3 investigating judges have been assigned to the case, meaning there's been progression from the initial investigation. Nasser al-Khelaifi denies any wrongdoing, while his representative directed news sources to a statement made back in 2022, where he called people like Ben Abderrahman professional criminals, stating that they changed lawyers more times than they changed their stories and lies. On the other hand, according to AFP, Ben Abderrahman's lawyer stated they were, quote, very happy that the real file of this story was finally being investigated by the French justice. So, what once started as a promising season for Paris Saint-Germain, in their first season with God Emperor Mbappe, a new sporting director, basically a clean slate if you will, has turned into a season of multiple scandals in just a matter of days. PSG politics, everyone.
Everything's great. Looking forward to getting back to the racetrack and getting into my race car.
Are you okay with Joey moving forward?
Everything's great. Really looking forward to getting in my race car and getting back here at Phoenix.
Speaking of that, are you glad that this is over and now you can get in the car where you're comfortable and get back to racing?
Everything's great.
Of course, a massive shout out to all our patrons, including Janos Balas, Chris Damasceno, Miliue009, Weston Ware, Aldipu, Alex Rod, Olta, Amin Suomes, Aresan, Carlos Anaya, Daniel Ortiz, Francisco Hernandez, Miguel Munoz, Return Fire, Rory Byrne, The Motor Drive, Tomicus, Trevor Batson, Vanilla Mexican 17, Victor, David Dunn, Dominic Griffin, Emmett Shea, Lewis, Joe Paricio, MX Weeb, Patrick Barley, and Unbroken Persona. If you'd like to join the Patreon, there'll be a link down below and up in the annotation. You can follow my Twitter if you want, follow my Instagram if you like, follow my TikTok, trying to get to 20,000 there, and of course you can follow my semi-active Twitch. But until then, I'll see you guys.